Hey, Dustin Zarni here, Commissioner in the Car. Today is Tuesday, April 6th, and I'm coming to you from the car wash. When I was getting my car taken care of, and I realized what time it was. I was also on a call, so sorry this is starting a little late today. But there's a lot of things going on that I wanted to update you about this today. This week is our objection week at the Board of Elections, which means that we will be ruling on objections that have come in to petitions. And this year, we only have one objection that we have a hearing scheduled for, and that is on Thursday. Keith Cannon put in a petition for a primary challenge for Helen Hudson, and there was an objection made to his petitions, and we have a hearing on Thursday to hear those objections and rule on those. Once that's done, I'll let you know what happens there. I don't comment on objections while they're in process, other than to say that there is an objection in process. We got our mail today, and no other objections have come in on petitions. So while we had some general objections, no specific objections came in. And what does that mean? So like when a candidate puts in a petition, many times a general objection is made to give a few more days to the objector to put in their specific objections. But if they don't make specific objections, so the timeline there is 3 days after a petition is filed, you have to put in a general objection, and 6 days after a general objection is filed, you have to put in a specific objection. Then once the specific objections come in, that's when we start our hearing process and ruling on them to determine whether that petition is valid or not. If no specific objection comes in, or no general objection for that matter, a petition is ruled valid based on an assumption of validity that we have at the Board of Elections, as long as they meet some of the four corner criterias that we have established at the Board of Elections, that the petition has, it's believed to have enough valid signatures. So like if you had 1,000 signatures you needed and you turned in one sheet, that would not be believable. That would not be an assumption that we could make. That the petition has the correct verbiage in it, primary date, the name and address, and that the candidate who's running is eligible to run for that office, and that that there is a cover sheet if it needs a cover sheet, and if a petition needs to be numbered, or all petitions need to be numbered, that the numbers are sequential. So we do that initial check, and then we wait for the objections to come in. And again, this year we only have one. But once an objection comes in, and a specific objection comes in, we set a hearing date, and we do our initial findings. We release those findings to the candidates and the objectors to give them an idea of where our preliminary findings are done by our bipartisan staff here at the board. And then after that is done, we have our hearing, and that's when the commissioners rule on the objection, and that's what we will be doing on Thursday, with the only objection that we have that is turned into specific objections this year. Another thing can happen to take a candidate off the ballot, and that is court proceedings. And we're not necessarily in control of those. That's the judges are in control of those. So 14 days from the last day to file petitions, a proceeding can be started in Supreme Court that will invalidate a petition. We must be served on that by 14 days of when the last day was to file those petitions. So it's coming up this week. So if we're not served, then there is no court proceeding, and then we will start to make our primary ballot starting next week if there's no other proceedings, and we'll start making primary ballots and go over that. So so that is what's going on at the Board of Elections this week. We're preparing for this. It's a light hearing week for us. Normally we have a lot more hearings in a local year, but because the signatures were reduced so much, then that we will now no longer, we just didn't get that many people who didn't get enough signatures, or at least assumed to have enough signatures. So I'm going to switch to my regular glasses so I can read some of the questions coming in. Yeah, so that's what's going on at the Board of Elections this week. And before I get to the questions, I want to talk about one other thing that's going on. It's the New York State budget is happening this week. There's been a deal. We do not know all the details of the deal, but in election-related spending, there was some very good news released early this morning that the capital budget will have $20 million for counties across the state to upgrade our hardware. Now, this is not people, but it's equipment, and this is going to be needed if we're going to move to a no-fault absentee system or counting absentees before Election Day, or many counties still have to upgrade to their electronic poll books or even on-demand poll prints. So that's good news. We're still waiting to hear whether for the release of the localities portion of the budget, which is usually the last portion to be released. The aid to localities is where we will see whether there is any infrastructure in place to help pay for staffing or human cost of the boards of elections, especially early voting costs. So we'll have to see what that does this week, and that will help us make decisions on how many early voting sites and other things that we can do, not only in Onondaga County, but across the state. So those are the two main things that are going on today. I'm going to go on to questions. So if you have any questions, just post them in the Facebook Live here, and I'll try to answer them. Dave asks, some people are drawing comparisons between the new voting laws recently passed in Georgia and voting laws in New York State, as well as participation, rejected absentee ballot rates, etc., in New York compared to Georgia. Do you think these comparisons are valid? Well, I've been a critic of New York voting laws for a while. I do think that direction matters. And what has been happening in New York since 2019, when the Democrats have taken over the New York State Legislature, is New York has been working on their voting laws. They've been expanding access. They added early voting. They've added absentee ballot. They made absentee ballot basically no excuse during the pandemic. They have constitutional amendments on the ballot this year to bring in same day and automatic voter registration. They've passed laws to have transportability of your registration from county to county. They've passed laws to increase primary hours statewide. They've passed laws to have an automatic recount for elections that are closed. They've passed laws to and they have constitutional amendments for same day and no excuse absentee ballots that will be on the ballot this year. Does New York need to do better? Absolutely. Do some Georgia laws better than New York's already? Yes. But the direction the Georgia lawmakers and Texas lawmakers and other Republican legislators are going matters, because they are trying to restrict voting laws based on a lie. And that matters because intent matters with these laws, and they are trying to restrict the vote in a way that that keeps people from being able to vote at the high turnout levels that we saw last year. And one very false comparison that is being made is the water in line law that the Georgia law puts in place. Meghan McCain, of course, no stranger to espousing fiction, was on The View saying that it's the same as the New York law. That is absolutely not true. Because what the Georgia law on giving out food and water to people in line does is it says nobody can do it except for the state of Georgia. And in New York, our laws actually say anonymous food and water donations of under a certain dollar amount is allowed. It's specifically in the law that it is allowed. So what the Georgia law is saying, nobody can do it but unless the state pays for it. And of course, they're not going to let the state pay for it. And the New York laws specifically allow anonymous food and water donations. So that is wrong and a bad talking point. Mark DeGennaro asks, I vote every year. Do I ever have to re-register, assuming I mean at the same address? No. If you vote every year and you're staying at the same address, you never have to re-register. By the way, if you don't vote every year and stay at the same address, you don't have to re-register either. It's only when you move that you have to re-register in New York State. We do not purge voters based on activity at the polling place. What we purge voters on is if we get a mail check card back, and we'll be talking about that next week, because the mail checks are coming. They're going to be coming to your houses next week, and if we get those cards back, then we put people in inactive status, meaning that they don't live at where they say they live, or at least we have some indication they don't. And then if they don't vote in 2 federal elections, then they get purged. So it's a lot harder to get purged in New York State. Dave Harding has another question. There was a recent court case that went to the Supreme Court that invalidated a Michigan law that made votes cast in the wrong polling place not correct. Could that affect New York State law that is similar? I don't know about that court case. I will research that. If it went to the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court rules on it, then it could it could affect every state, not just Michigan. But it depends on how the Supreme Court rules, whether it's a portion of the law that is not constitutional. Personally, I have always believed that if you show up at the wrong polling place, but you are properly registered to vote and you fill out an affidavit ballot, your vote should count for the races that you are allowed to vote, and that the inspector should do everything that they should do to get you to the right polling place. But that is not the law in New York. The law in New York says that if you show up at the wrong polling place, your vote will not count. And it is one of the main reasons why properly registered, or not properly registered, but registered voters who are registered at the wrong address and show up at a different polling place have their votes not count. That is something that needs to go. So Dave said in the chat that it's in the 6th Circuit, not SCOTUS, but it could go to SCOTUS. So if it does go to SCOTUS, it'll change New York law. If it stays in the 6th Circuit, then it won't. It'll just be about Michigan. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I think that's a good case to go to SCOTUS. So we'll see how that happens. I don't know how SCOTUS will rule on that. They've traditionally ruled that states get to make their own election law, and as long as it doesn't violate some racial issue on that, they won't change it. So we'll have to see. Casey says, how can I research the contributions and contributors a candidate received in the past and current election cycles? This is actually a great question because there's been a recent update to the State Board of Elections website. If you go to the State Board of Elections website, you can search a candidate by name, get all of their filings, and download them in Excel files so you can actually do better research. Is it perfect? No. You still have to do piece of the Excel things together. You have to go on individual filings and not on the life of the candidate, or you may be able to do the life of a candidate. It's brand new. It just got done in February, and I haven't done as much research with it other than downloading some files for some people. So I think it's much better than it ever has been. The State Board has updated their website, and they deserve a lot of kudos on that. They're going to be doing some trainings, about how to use campaign finance, online trainings. You can sign up at the state board website and take those to learn how to use this new system. I'll try to post that information at some point this week as well. So I don't see any other questions. So tomorrow I am doing a Wonky Wednesday on the town of Marcellus. Check that out. I might have some news on Wonky Wednesdays next week. I'm gonna, I'm teasing it, and I don't mean to be a tease, but I don't know if I should say anything yet. So check in next week. My Wonky Wednesday stuff is actually gotten a lot of notice, and I'm hoping that there may be some more news on that next week. And my Zoom with Zarni this week is with Bridget Kenny of she is the media coordinator for the Flip the Ledge group that is trying to flip 11 seats that are held by GOP representatives on the county legislature, and we're going to go over all of those candidates and their races this year, and how you can get and learn them. So, and I will have the individual candidates on later in the election cycle, but I thought it would be a good recap of some of the things that are going on outside the city of Syracuse. I did Francis Knoll, who's the city chair, a couple weeks ago, and so this one is about the county legislator candidates, and we have 17 candidates, but we're going to talk about the 11 candidates that are taking on the GOP, because our 6 incumbents are also running as well, and we're going to have a nice discussion about which one and who's doing what, and and why, and how you can help them out. This is big races this year. I'll be also eventually doing some town, all the towns that are putting up their slates. I'll be talking to them over the next few weeks as well, and starting to go into May and June, we'll be doing candidate interviews on Zoom with Zarni. And so that's this Thursday's Bridget Kenny. Right now, I still got the Erica Clark, video up, our Zoom with Zarni video. Check that out. She was our city court judge candidate, and she's running. She's not in a primary, and she's running against a Republican for the Syracuse City Court judge. That's in our feeds right now as well. So I don't think I have anything else to talk to you about today. I'm actually off today. I took today off for some family appointments, and so I'm not in the office today, but I will be back tomorrow. But if you need anything, always know how to get in touch with me, or email me, Facebook me. Happy to answer any questions. And as soon as we have more answers on the budget and what happens with our hearing on Thursday, I'll be posting those as well. Thank you very much. Enjoy this beautiful weather, and please remember, stay safe, wear a mask, get your vaccine. Today it opened up to 16 plus. Please get your appointment, get your vaccine. This is how we get out of this, is if we all get the vaccine together. At 16 years and older now, you can get the vaccine. I'm double vaxxed on Thursday. I will be beyond my 14-day holding. My wife has just received her vaccination. So please get the vaccine. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. Anybody who needs that vaccine, please get it. The more people that get it, the quicker we get out of this. But in the meantime, stay socially distanced. Wear the mask. Let's avoid that fourth wave that we think might be coming, and work together to help each other out. Thank you very much. Goodbye.